one of my recent videos, I did a tour of my Japanese apartment, and I did that video because I thought it would be worthwhile to share what my living environment looks like here in Japan. Uh, I've been here for over 5 years, and I've never really given insight in terms of what my home life looks like. And so the feedback from that video was unbelievably positive. There were so many positive comments, but before the tour ended, many of you said not so fast, and that's because you were very interested in my kitchen. And so there were some keen observations as well as some recommendations in terms of improving this space. So I thought that I would make a follow-up video really focused on the kitchen and asking, or at least sort of seeking your help in terms of how to improve this particular space in my apartment. And so that's what we're going to cover in this video today. And we'll look at some of the areas that I didn't cover in the video, and namely that's the storage areas, as well as address some of the feedback that you all provided in terms of actual storage as well as appliances in this apartment. So let's get to it. And hey, again, once again, the goal is to really look at how to improve this space. Now, the idea with this video is that I will take your recommendations, and over the course of the year, finances permitting, I will make these upgrades, and then later in the year follow up with a video so that you can see what those upgrades look like. Now, some of you have already provided your ideas and recommendations on how to improve this space, and the purpose of this video is to really bring those ideas together so that I can really focus on improving this space. I think it's a big goal for this year, especially considering that I've been in Japan for so long, and there are some areas in this kitchen that really need improvement. But beyond that, you could really help me out by hitting the like button on this video or the subscribe button if you haven't already. Your support helps to grow this channel and potentially help me get the resources that I need to make the upgrades that you suggest. Now, let's get to the tour. So one of the observations in the video were these cabinets and how high they are. And that was a very keen observation made by one of the viewers of the Japan apartment tour video. And yes, they are quite high. I'm 174 centimeters tall, or about 5 feet 8 inches, roughly average height. And as you can see, my hand doesn't reach the top of the cabinet. Now, if you've looked at my previous videos, you might have observed sort of this area of my face here, and you might have observed it as a scar or as a wrinkle. Well, it is in fact a scar, and it was caused by an incident involving this cabinet, which is why I wanted to make note of it. So what happened was I was opening the cabinet, and while opening the cabinet, there was a Stanley type cup, 30 ounces, at the top of this cabinet here. And while reaching for a plastic container, the cup started sort of wobbling a bit. It was here, and I was shuffling for one of these, and it fell down and struck me right between the eyes, and here we are. And that required a trip to the emergency room. And I'm not blaming the cabinet, but obviously the height of the cabinet is a big factor, but I take responsibility for it. I did put that tumbler up there, and it should not have been there. And so that's an example of things in this apartment, particularly in the kitchen and the living room, not being able to find a proper place. And so obviously I suffered from that, and I'm much more careful now. I'm actually quite nervous each time that I open this cabinet for fear of something falling out. Now, it was a freak accident, but I did have some awareness that something like this could occur because in previous experiences over my 4.5 years in this apartment, quite frequently plastic containers will come flying out of the cabinet whenever I open it, and that's just sort of a function of careless placement, I suppose. And again, as I mentioned earlier, things not being able to find their proper place. So if you have any ideas on this, how to do this better, or how to organize it better, I'm more than welcome any suggestions that you have, because obviously it was a fairly serious incident that occurred, and I was by myself when I was struck by the cup. And fortunately, this scar, is the worst of it, and it is healing well. But obviously things could have been much worse. I could have, had damage to my eye, potentially lose an eye, a broken nose, or even damaged teeth. And so that's an example of why it's important, I guess, for things to find their proper place. So I'd like to hear what you think about that. Okay, so obviously, as you can see, I've got my apron on. I This is my Buc-ee apron, which I love, and I haven't had a chance to wear it because I don't have many guests. So here it is for this particular scene. So this was another area of keen interest for you. My refrigerator area. There were some suggestions to put a rack above this refrigerator so that I could put some small appliances on it as well as containers, and I really do appreciate that. Now, I did have a rack here. It was sort of a tension rod rack that could support up to, I believe it was roughly 22 pounds. But the issue is that Japan is a country known for seismic activity. And even though there were no major earthquakes, there were several small earthquakes. And that was enough to cause some sort of movement of the wall here, which ended up causing the shelving to fall down. And so I never put it back into place for that reason. So I will look at the freestanding shelf. Now, some of you suggested looking at IKEA, or here in Japan, IKEA. And so I will look at that. I have seen some solutions at IKEA, and I will give that some serious consideration because I do need to get some of this stuff off of the countertops, off of this microwave and up. And also, as I mentioned, getting the coffee grinder out of the living room as well. So that's something that I really appreciate from you guys. And let's see where we end up with it if I can find a reasonable solution. The other observation that you made, and I also talked about as well, is this microwave. I bought this microwave when I came to Japan 5.5 years ago. I think I paid maybe $30 for it. It's a basic microwave oven from Nitori, which is a sort of home goods store style. If you're familiar with that in the U.S., they sell all types of furniture and housewares that are really sort of suited to the Japanese market because a lot of that furniture is smaller. So that it can be accommodated in Japanese spaces. There's not much that I've purchased from Nitori, mainly because I find the furniture too small. And so one of the suggestions, actually, I'm sorry, a couple of the suggestions was to buy a sort of combo microwave slash tabletop oven unit. And I've had that on my radar for several years. And there's one that is quite popular here. It's called the Sharp Healsio. And it's a bit bigger than this. They come in 22 liter units and 30-liter units, and that's enough to get a small roast inside the oven and be able to do some baking. I want the 30-liter unit. I believe it's called the AX1, or it's part of the AX series, and it's just big enough to fit on top of this refrigerator here. But I am on a Japanese salary, which is quite low, and so I can't afford that oven. Now, there have been other priorities as well. I've purchased a MacBook, I've purchased a camera to make these YouTube videos, but it's clearly time for me to address the uh, microwave solution because I am, as I mentioned in the previous video, quite limited in the food options that I can make, and it just would be nice to have one. So once again, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, or that like button, because your support could potentially help me get that oven. So I really appreciate it, and also it's just fun, bringing this content to you. So just as I was about to upload this video to YouTube, I started receiving even more comments about considering an air fryer for my kitchen. So I felt that I should do this particular segment to address those of you who have made that recommendation. I will definitely look into an air fryer because I don't have any experience with them. But as I mentioned, I'm very reluctant to accumulate small appliances in this apartment, namely because there's just no space to store them. But again, with your recommendations and finances permitting, hopefully I can arrive at a storage solution that will allow me to store appliances as well as be able to use these types of things like air fryers. One of the things to also consider is that my kitchen only has 2 electrical outlets. So that really limits me in terms of the actual use of these small appliances on a day-to-day basis, because I would actually have to physically move the small appliances near my refrigerator or put it on top of my kitchen tabletop in order to be able to use them. And again, when considering sort of where I would actually store these small appliances, it really sort of creates some challenges in terms of functioning in the kitchen above and beyond what I've explained in this video. But I've read and appreciate all of your suggestions. And as we get further along into the year, let's see how things unfold and what type of solutions really make sense in this apartment. So one thing I want to do is I want to make mention of a particular suggestion, and that was to check out the Nami Life channel, because Nami is Japanese, and she does a lot of videos about her home life and organization of her home. 私はNami San のビデオが見ました。でも彼女がキッチンのオーダーはすごい綺麗です。でも私のキッチンちょっと大細です。Nami San has a very nice kitchen. She's hyper organized, and there are some very good ideas that I saw on her channel. So thanks for those of you who recommended Nami San's channel. So I'll look into some of that, but not to discredit her. Obviously, she's very well organized. I don't know if I could keep up with that on a day-to-day basis, but surely she's got some ideas that I will consider. And I know that she made some purchases at Daiso and Nitori, and so I'll follow some of her ideas. So now let's get into under cabinet storage, which I did not cover at all in the first apartment tour. And I actually sort of deliberately, it was, a bit of a mess there. And so I didn't get into it and didn't think it was relevant. But again, based on your feedback, felt like I should get into it in this video, and you can take a look at it, and definitely please provide, your various suggestions, because these areas need some help. So this cabinet here, obviously the under sink cabinet, I've got my cleaning supplies, my trash bags, and then also dishcloths. And obviously it's aligned with the sink, but it's not ideal. I've tried in various ways to organize it, and to varying degrees of success. It is better than it has been in previous years. I did, make sort of a real sort of focused effort on keeping this organized. That was at the beginning of 2024, to really do a better job with this, and more or less it's held up. And then the other side, I've got my rarely used items, so things like weather stripping or paint and stains, for example, things that I don't use at all. And they really shouldn't be here, but there isn't much storage in this apartment, so it's the best that I could do. And then my toolbox is here also. So that's really key for the various projects that I work on, to be able to have my toolbox readily available. Again, there's just no place for it in other areas of the apartment. So now on to my under cabinet storage under the stove, and you guessed it, what's under there? There are pots and pans, among other things. So I typically store excess food down here, so canned goods. As I mentioned, the NutriBullet sometimes lives under here, and my pots and pans. And then that Buc-ee cup that injured me also now lives under here. Because obviously I don't want to ever risk something like that again. And so that's what's under here, but this is not ideal either. So definitely would like to hear your suggestions on how to improve upon this. The unfortunate aspect of it is the fact that this really is the primary area for food storage, but it's very small, and so therefore a lot of food has to go underneath the cabinet, and that's the reality of sort of working in this kitchen or functioning in this kitchen. I do like the kitchen, to be fair, but obviously, as you can see, it is limited in terms of the options available to me. And when you take it all in aggregate, I'm living with this on my face, this scar here, and then things again, sort of randomly being placed in this kitchen. So some of you made some comments about the table here, the kitchen table, And I'm standing next to the table so that you can see sort of the space available for me to move. So this table is okay. I don't think any immediate changes are necessary. There was suggestion for a rectangle table. Some of those tables are a bit hard to find. Typically, they're actually bigger than 60 centimeters. So the round table is quite common here in Japan. But this one is low on the priority list, mainly because it doesn't really impact me that much in terms of the functionality. So going back to the Bucky Cup incident, when it struck me, if there were, some sort of cabinet here or something like that, or sharp object, uh, this space could have been problematic because when it did strike, it did leave me staggered to the point where I did collapse near the table. Fortunately, it didn't knock me out, so I was able to sort of maintain a bit of balance after the incident occurred. So we'll keep this setup simple here for the time being. But yeah, it's okay in terms of space here. Now, some of the other things too is I'll probably be in this apartment for at least one more year, so I don't want to go crazy with upgrades, but obviously I do have to be able to function in this apartment for the next maybe 12 to 18 months. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on how to make some improvements, some upgrades here without making too many radical changes, in consideration of the fact that I do need a bigger space overall, and ultimately I need to be forward looking in terms of what that bigger space is, and what I would actually do there. Finally, here's my newest addition to my apartment. This is this hand vac, which is really super helpful to have, because I typically use a RoboVac on a day-to-day basis to keep the floors clean, but just surfaces and things like that. This really gets the job done without bringing in a much larger type of vacuum. But once again, this also needs a place, and it's currently here behind the kitchen table, and that's not an ideal place. I can't think of a proper place for it. Even my Robo Vac sits under my bed, and if all goes well, it parks itself properly. If not, I could be crawling under the bed in terms of being able to get the Robo Vac. But those types of things, they are what they are. That's just a reality of living inside a Japanese apartment. So, as much as I want to be organized, it's a small space, and so there's only so much that can be done here. And then there is my cutlery drawer, and this is a more or less disaster. Um, I just have a lot of different types of cutlery. Some of the sort of larger type of cutlery, like spatulas or serving spoons and so on, measuring cups. I had some of those things on the rack here that fell down, and now they've been relocated to this drawer here. So if I could find a good self solution, hopefully we can get some of this addressed here. But it is indeed a big issue because, again, a lot of utensils are residing in places that they don't belong, and this is the only cutlery drawer in the house. So that's officially a wrap for the tour. We've looked at my kitchen. I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback and your suggestions. And let's see where we are later this year with the various upgrades and improvements that I make to this apartment. So as always, thanks for watching this video. And once again, if you haven't hit that like button, be sure to hit it. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video soon. Thanks.